Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of BestAgent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have no offers accepted if you're not viewing. So be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my hotel room, somewhere in deepest, darkest Essex, where I will be slurping this evening, but not tea. It's going to be slurping from my existing pint of Guinness, which apparently I'm told I'm lucky to have because there was a massive Guinness heist recently, like 35,000 pints of Guinness stolen. Anyway, a couple of interesting things have happened today. In this video, I'm going to go into the breakdown of BestAgent's asking price index and what we can learn from it about what's happening in the market and what we can't as well, and touch on possibly the Bank of England mortgage data as well. But I want to start with this. I put a post up on X today, and I'll just show you what I'll put it up on the screen so you can see what it says. It was a fictional quote. We don't trust estate agents, except when they tell us our home is worth 25% more than it really is. Then we trust them completely with the sale of our home, and we trust them so much that we sign a 6-month sole agency and high fee agreement. Now, this has upset a few people, and I've had a few defensive comments from sellers going, it's not our fault, it's estate agents. And there is some truth that it's not actually estate agents as much as it is house price indices, which is the purpose of this video. I posted on YouTube as well as a post, and someone on YouTube commented and said, maybe agents shouldn't be overvaluing properties to ensure homeowners, hang on a second so you can see it, go with them for the sale of their property. That's a fair point, but if they didn't, then the homeowners wouldn't go with them and those agents would lose that business. That's what happens. This channel has a real negative attitude towards sellers. No, that's not true. It's not true. I want to help sellers. I want to help all the sellers who are sitting on the market waiting for that one buyer who's never going to come because they have been convinced of the value of their property, but they've been convinced of it with baseless, unverifiable guff. And the conversations I've had today, I've been with an agent today who I'm advising and who's made the decision to never overvalue again, in fact, to never even do valuations again, and to win their business with a different approach. And a conversation that agent had today with a seller backs this up. And it's an interesting situation. Let me just finish this seller's comment. So most sellers are not greedy. Most sellers are not greedy money bags telling agents what their property is worth. Maybe not most, but some definitely are. Those that are will sit on the market with an unsold property or change agents many times trying to get what they demand. The majority rely on agents to tell them what their property is worth. No, it's not. It's the other way around. The minority trust agents to tell what their property is worth. The majority sit there believing their house is worth more. And then have to find a home among a sea of similarly overvalued properties. Yes, that's true. Most are happy to budge to what is an agreeable price to make a sale. Sellers don't claim to be property experts. Many are clueless. Okay. Yes, that's true. Let's get this data up on screen. Okay. Now, what I want to show you here is those figures in the middle, okay? These figures here, okay? That is the median published asking price of homes in England that are currently showing sale agreed or under offer. Okay. And that has dropped £15,000 since I last showed you Best Agents data not long ago in this video here, where it was £315,000. I don't know if you can see that, but it was £315,000. That video was the £35,000 price gap. And so the sold asking price median across the whole of England is now down from 315,000 to 300,000. These are not the agreed prices. This is not the median of the actual sale price. We don't have that data yet. This is the median of the published asking prices, okay, of those properties showing as sold. Now, they are down nearly 5% since our last readout. Let me make it very clear. I do not think that property median sold prices just dropped 5% in 1 month. I don't think that's happened. I think I know why this has happened, and I will explain it to you. But what's important is the gap between this number, which is the median asking price of all sold properties in England, and this number. Okay, the difference in how much those two have changed. So that what was a month ago a £35,000 gap is now a £40,000 gap, as the under offer properties, the ones that are actually selling, sale agreed ones, that price has come down faster, not quite twice as fast, but significantly faster than the asking prices of unsold, the median asking price of unsold, still for sale homes. Okay. And actually, if you want to go look at the mean, all right, this is why Rightmove doesn't bother with the whole of market stuff, because there's so much stuff sitting on there that skews the average asking price of unsold stuff so highly that it would lose all credibility. But this average asking price here is roughly akin to Rightmove's, what they call their average house price, which is new listed properties. And this is the average asking price of properties that are selling. But that's the mean as opposed to the median. 20% difference there, right? Which is why the median is much closer to real. Am I making sense? Do we have any questions? I'm going to keep on going. I want to get into the nitty-gritty. Hi, everybody. Andrew, Dennis, hi there, Naida, Joanne, Nick. Right. What do we make of this and why? Okay. So the next thing I want to point out to you is is exactly how this index is calculated, what it's made up of, and how it differs from all of the others. Now, the most important difference between BestAgent, which, by the way, bestagent.co.uk is my property website. It's what I've been working on building for a long time, and it's what I'm about to be bringing to the market and starting to promote more for people who are trying to find agents or trying to find homes. And there's still a lot of work to do to it, but it is live and it's working. The most important thing to understand is that this is the only index of all available house price indices that includes 100% of all of the available homes for sale that we can find in England and Wales. Now, this is just England. The snapshot is from, is that today or yesterday? That's today, from this morning, 5th of March. And you can see the sample size here, right? It's 123,000 homes showing a sale agreed. So that means they haven't yet completed their sale, but a price has been agreed between the buyer and the seller, and hopefully the transaction is proceeding. And there are 450,000 nearly homes for sale that are not yet under offer. Okay, so that's 3.6 times as many homes for sale as there are showing as sold. And bear in mind that the average time that these ones continue to show for is 5 months. That's the average time. Now, in reality, the ones that are selling quickly and are going through quickly are maybe showing for 2 months, and the others are showing for 7 or 8, 9 months. Right. So this is the only index that's 100% of the sample size of the market. It's the only index that includes newly listed as well as existing properties in the market which have had price reductions. Okay, so it's the only one that has a real reflection in the market. Just to quickly recap, Rightmove only shows the first initial listing asking prices of newly listed homes in the most recent 4-week or 1-month period. And it excludes everything else that's on the market, and it excludes all price reductions, and it excludes and it doesn't separate out for sale and sold stuff like this does. So this index, okay, Rightmove does the whole of the UK. This is just England I'm showing you here. But this index is arguably much more transparent and a much truer sample of what's actually happening, because Rightmove's index just shows you all the brand new stuff coming to market, whether it sells or not, whether it gets reduced or not, and it excludes everything else. This includes everything, but it separates it out between what's selling and what's not. And so you can see that the most relevant line is this line here, what's selling. Now, what is actually happening out there? What can we glean from this? Okay, so the reason that there's this disproportionately large increase compared to a month ago in the number of homes is because we've been doing a bit of a purge and refresh of all the data. And I think that's what's caused this abnormally large movement in 1 month here. I think what's happening is actually that 4.8% reduction has been happening over a few months, not in just 1 month. Okay. But the median sold price had been sticking around £315,000 for a long time. So there's a significant reduction. Now, exactly since when it's come down from 315,000 to 300,000, I can't tell you. I don't know. But whether or not that figure, the drop percentage, is accurate, this figure is accurate, right? As is this one, right? The median asking prices of unsold stuff and sold stuff. Now, it doesn't matter what the actual number is, it only matters what the movement is, because this is, again, it's a national average for England, and that doesn't help you in one particular place. We haven't broken it down by property type yet, etc. But so let me tell you now about the conversation I had with agents today. So they were London agents, and the first thing I came away from them with was they said that the flat market is dead. They said there's so much on the market, so many flats on the market, and they're just not shifting. And they weren't talking about their own stock, they were talking about all the other agent stock as well. That there seems to be a real lack of interest and declining amount of interest in flats, mostly because of the leasehold situation and service charge situation, and people are starting to wake up that they're really just not a good investment. And the other conversation I had with them, which comes back to this and why this channel is not negative about sellers. What I'm trying to do is to get sellers to check their own confirmation bias. And let me tell you about the story today, right? So the conversation I had with these guys today, let me just close that down. They were talking me through individually the conversations they've been having with the sellers of the properties that they're bringing to market. And basically, this is an agent who is paying me to consult to them about how, because they were losing the battle against Foxtons and Dexters for overvaluing. They were going in against Foxtons and Dexters, reluctantly having to throw out random numbers that made it sound like they were in the same ballpark as Foxtons and Dexters. And they were winning some, but then they couldn't sell it because it was all too overpriced. So they called me in and they said, can you help us fix this? And that's what I've been doing. And their approach now is they don't do a valuation. They come round to people's homes and talk to them about their approach for getting the best market price. They follow my advice to agents, which is to talk process, not prices. Because when you list an overpriced house, it's going to cost you money as an agent. It's going to take ages to sell. It's going to make you look bad, and you're going to let your client down. But they're having challenges because of how many sellers have had their expectations set by the gross overvaluing of the Foxtons and Dexters and other agents doing the same thing. And the story they told me today was about a disconnect in a seller's mind where the seller listened logically to the process about, okay, we bring it to the market at a very precise launch price that makes it look better value than other comparable properties, but isn't too low. The objective being to get as many viewings as possible in the first 2 weeks, so we quickly discover what it's really worth. And the launch price goes out of the window as all the people who come around and look start bidding against each other. And it's working so well. I mean, one of the properties they listed most recently, they've got 16 viewings booked in the first week. Out of 16 viewings, they may well get 8 genuine interest and then 4 of them offering. And the seller will be able to pick from 4 offers, and 4 properly qualified competing bidders bidding against each other on a home is going to find the best market price very quickly. So they were explaining this process to one of their potential new sellers. And the seller listened to the whole process and went, that's great. Sounds fantastic. We understand. We get it. We get it. We get it. We get it. The market dictates the price. You're going to do this so that you get lots of sellers around, lots of buyers around, people through the door, competing with each other. We find out the best price for the house. Great. So they went through the process and they got the instruction without putting a number on it. So we're going to show it to some people off market first without mentioning a price. People who were looking at similar properties, people who are already on our books looking at similar properties, and see what they say. And the seller went, great, and that was fine. And then they decided, okay, we've now got to come up with a number to put it on the market at. And when the agent told them the number, the seller suddenly went cold. Oh no, we're too far apart. And the agent was like, I thought we discussed the fact that, we don't know what it's going to sell for. We'll discover that by getting competing bidders, and we'll get competing bidders by having this compelling asking price. And the sellers went, let's just put everything on hold, and finally, after all this time, the sellers admitted, we actually had a number in our head. And I advised the agent to say to them, it doesn't matter what the number in your head is, because the number in your head, we may or may not achieve it, but if we're going to achieve it, this is how we achieve it. And I explained to the agent, I said, look, that seller, the logic part of their brain is going, yep, I get the process, that's great, we're going to go with you, we're going to sell it. But the emotional part that doesn't consider logic and rationale went, but what if we don't get as much money as we could if we put a high asking price on? And this is symptomatic of the whole market. And what happens when Foxtons and Dexters go out there knowingly overvaluing everything, which is why they don't sell 3/4 of what they list, is that they are going around setting expectations. And then those expectations are reinforced by the ONS, overstating yearly house price growth, which it's done. The last 2 months, it's almost doubled the true number in its own figures. It's just puts a headline out. No one questions the headline, but if you look at its own figures, it's actually doubling it. So it was 2.3%, not 4.6% in the most recent readout. So I'm not saying sellers are greedy. I'm saying that when sellers have got multiple agents coming around telling them it's worth 20 or 25% more than it really is worth, of course a seller's going to believe that. And of course a seller is not going to want to go with an agent who goes, look, let's put it on at a price we know will get viewings, and then we will see what it sells for. But most sellers cannot get their head around that and are just latched onto the fear that that means that they might sell for an undervalue. But that doesn't make any sense, does it? Because they won't be forced to sell it for anything, right? That is a misplaced fear. If we put the asking price too low, we might not get as much money for it. If you put it too low and you don't get the offers that you want, you can still ignore them, right? But by putting the asking price lower to begin with, you guarantee to get more people in the door, right? The higher the launch asking price, if you lower it later, it's too late. You just look greedy and foolish. If you put it on higher and you test the market or fly a kite or any of those other stupid phrases that only really shit estate agents use, and then have to lower the price, there is data from Rightmove themselves explaining how that means you are now, I think it's 60% less likely to sell at all, and you're going to sell over, it's going to take you much longer to sell, and you're going to sell for a lower price. The hard data is there to prove that, but sellers who don't understand how the market works just latch onto, we must put the asking price at the price that we think we want to get, and if we don't, we might sell, because they don't understand the process. Anyway, do we have any questions from you guys? I haven't got the screenshots ready. Actually, what I'll do is I'll pull up my tweet that I had with the data on this. I want to talk you through also the Bank of England. Here we are. So let's just get this up on the screen. The Bank of England mortgage approvals that came out. That graph there that you're looking at is the seasonally adjusted line that goes back to July 2024. So it's about 9 months, right? And it's a fairly flat line. And that's what seasonally adjusting does, okay? It just makes it kind of sort of smooth line and maybe gives you a better underlying trend. And that's fine. There's nothing, I've got nothing wrong with that, right? I'm not saying that that's a problem, but the problem is that when the public read the headlines from the FT and This Is Money and all these newspapers going, the Bank of England announces that mortgage approvals are 66,000 in January. They're not actually. They're 51,000. Now, is that, so it's the 51,000 is the number from the Bank of England website, which is the non-seasonally adjusted number. Now, I'm not criticizing the seasonally adjusted method. I get the point of it. It makes the zigzaggy line smoother and shows you the longer term trend, and that's fine. But it's important, I think, to always quote both. So seasonally adjusted in January, mortgage approvals were about the same as they were in December. In actual fact, what happened was that in October, they peaked up at about 67,000. And if you remember what happened in October, Rachel Reeves' disastrous budget, and then they just fell off a cliff. Does that happen seasonally? Yes, but not that much normally. Is that just a seasonal thing that happens every year? Which is a perfectly valid question. Yeah, but not that much. Or is it the fact that we've had two things happen, the budget itself and the stamp duty deadline, and that actually December and January, buyers realized that it's now too late to beat the stamp duty deadline. Now, anecdotally, I am hearing from a lot of agents that there's no shortage of buyers who want to buy. There's always buyers who want to buy, no matter what's happening in the economy, no matter what's happening. But whether or not the buyers are coming out and viewing property, it depends on the asking prices that are showing on properties. And what the buyers are doing is they're going, the market's overpriced. The market's overpriced. We don't want to pay those asking prices, so we're not even going to view them. And now with the stamp duty thing happening, that makes it even worse. And yes, there are lots of different markets. We've got flats and we've got houses, we've got first-time buyers levels, we've got top, higher level, and they're all doing slightly different things, right? But quietly, there's a huge amount of concern about what's happening in the market this year. Not just in sales, but in lettings as well, because of the Renters' Rights Bill. This morning, there was a story out about, actually, let me get the story up. I'll show you. It's about the landlord sell-off, and it's official figures. Here we are, hang on. Here we are. Right, an exclusive story on This Is Money. Okay. Spike in landlords putting properties up for sale as tougher rules, mortgage hikes, and taxes bite. Okay. And what it goes on to point out is that in this January, 25,000 homes were listed for sale that were previously rental homes, representing 17.4% of new listings. A year earlier, it was only 11% or 12% of new listings. So that's basically a 50% increase in the number of ex-rentals being listed compared to this time a year ago. And of course, it's quite hard for landlords to, it takes a while for landlords to put their property in the market because they've normally got to regain possession first. But all of these signals, and then, we've got today in the news, Rachel Reeves talking about, oh, the world has changed and now we're going to have to look at cutting civil service jobs, have to go public cuts, tax rises. Oh, but it's not our fault, it's because of the world. It's all looking very bleak. Could there be a property market crash this year? No, I don't think there's going to be a crash this year. I do think the slide is going to get steeper, and I think the slide is going to last well into next year. Just because there are so many different metrics adding up. There are still first-time buyers out there, and the first-time buyers are still buying properties because they want somewhere to live, and that's not going to stop. But there are too many things, and as well as the ONS covering up its massive price drop, which it published but didn't shout about the fact that it's lowered the UK average house price by £22,000 overnight, which is about an 8% drop on what it said it was. But no one talked about that. No one talked about it. I didn't see a single newspaper article talking about it. Mike Dennington, how many properties does the 300k figure cover? You're talking about the BestAgent one. That's 123,000 properties in England. That's what that covers. Okay. Looking for questions now. Sam Baker says 3 bids at the Lisa limit, 450,000 on separate London flats, rejected. At what point do I suck it up and lose £4,000 from my savings to get a place? Want to avoid £600 penalty if I can, but might be being unrealistic, he goes on to say in the next comment. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're doing your thinking there. You're reaching your conclusion whether you like it or not. But I would just trust your instincts. Don't be forced into overpaying more than you're comfortable paying. Don't worry too much about trying to save yourself from losing a bit here and there. Remember, it's the move, not the money. Getting the home you want to live in, if you can live in it long term, is more important than a slight saving. Andrew Dennis says, when do you know when the market has stopped coming down? Good question. There are quite a few indicators of that. It's always regional to begin with. Typically, the earliest sign is a significant and almost overnight uptick in the number of buyers booking viewings on properties. That's the earliest sign. That doesn't reach into national data for quite a long time, but that's the very earliest sign is a sudden increase in people wanting to view properties. Nick Jones says, I think some areas are doing remarkable, but more areas are dropping like a lead balloon. Yep, I'm hearing there are some places that it's holding up fine. There are plenty of first-time buyers. There's lots of competition, especially first-time buyers competing with downsizers. That's happening, but there are places where there's just not much happening. British James says, so what happens if you, as a seller, follow Charlie's mindset and get an offer, but all the vendors you are looking at clearly aren't waiting for an overpriced offer? Makes for depressing viewings. Are you talking about if you're selling and buying, British James? So typically what happens, and this is a great question actually, you reminded me of a point I wanted to make. If you are selling and buying, you're a realistic seller, but when you're buying, you're dealing with unrealistic sellers and properties you're looking at, that does happen. But typically speaking, you can normally negotiate. So don't worry about the asking prices of houses that you're looking at. Right? You might have to go and view quite a few, but there will be some, especially the ones who've been on the market a long time, that might look like they're asking prices out of your price range, who would be willing to consider a 20% reduction on their asking price to get it sold. You've just got to be out there viewing, and you've got to be out there viewing with an offer in your pocket for your property as a seller. Wow. British James says, this was us in the fallout of the credit crunch, compromised on a purchase which we have regretted ever since. Oh, sorry to hear that. But this is the message I'm trying to get out there to buyers. You know, you can go wrong with property. No one in the industry except me says it. I want everyone to buy a home, but you can go wrong with it. And if you realize how you can go wrong with it, as a first time buyer, it's so easy to get completely carried away and over enthusiastic and just go caution to the wind. We're finally going to get our home. We've been dreaming about this for years. Rose tinted spectacles on. Let's just get our home. Which is why I often say buy in haste and repent at leisure. There was also news today that the Bank of England, the market that had priced in 2 more rate cuts this year, is now only pricing in 1 more rate cut this year. Andrew Dennis says, what's a crash, what's a slide? A crash is when buying interest kind of dries up almost overnight, relatively speaking. You know, in a very short space of time, the buyer interest disappears, or too many sellers and lots of sellers start dropping their prices really fast. Actually, they're quite rare. It's always more of a slide. It just in the rear view mirror, it looks like a crash because of how far prices eventually came down. I think we're in a slide. I think the slide is at different gradients depending on where you are in the country and depending on what level you are of the market. But even with the ONS figures showing that the average UK house price has gone up 2.3%, that's still below CPIH 3.9%, which means that all house values overall are still coming down. Northern Ireland is definitely bucking that trend, but in the rest of the UK, they're coming down. Mike Dennington says, what's the agent's solution to the issue of certain other agents overpricing? They just basically, if you're going to compete with other overvaluing agents, you as an agent are forced to overvalue yourself. And you're fighting a losing battle. Because even if you win the instruction, you're not going to be able to sell it at that price. Right? So overvaluing by agents is so counterproductive and self-destructive, because even when you win, you lose. So the answer is to get the sellers, and as an agent, to only be interested in the sellers who've got their heads screwed on right and go, I understand, I am the seller, and I understand that the market will decide the price of my home, not me, not what I want, not what you say, not what a valuation says, not what Rightmove says. The market will decide the precise value of my home. And the best way to make sure that's the best price we can get, as well as presenting the property correctly and pricing correctly, is to get the maximum number of people through the door. And when a seller understands that, and they understand that asking price doesn't guarantee what price you're going to get for it, and in fact, asking price, if it's too high, scares buyers away, reduces your chances of selling. Once you can sort of snap the sellers out of the zombie trance of their house being worth so much more than it is, which is not their fault, by the way, and you've got them listening, and you say to them, look, we'll find out what offers. As long as you get your competing offers, we know we've got the market price for your home. And then when you've got an offer in your pocket, you can go and start bidding on your next home. Tom Rowland says, what do you think of 20CI data? Is it valid? Generally speaking, yes. The trouble is that because 20CI's clients are all estate agents. And so they are very restrictive about what 20CI can and can't publish. So they tend to be selective with what they publish. They don't, why don't they just publish it all? Because they won't. They won't be allowed to, basically. Pokemaster Marcelo says, bought our first home a year ago. Thanks for all the useful tips. You're the best. Awesome. Thank you. Love hearing that. Always great. Nick Jones says, do you think house price slides will increase after they announce the spring budget? Okay, I actually just haven't even thought about what they're going to announce in the budget yet. In a nutshell, my knee-jerk reaction to that question is yes, with the caveat that they may or may not announce housing market intervention. And if they do, I don't know what that's going to look like and how much difference it might make. Carlos says, is there any chance the government could reverse the stamp duty changes if transactions fall off a cliff? If the government actually understood what would be better for the economy, they would scrap stamp duty on all homes, all first homes, people buying a home. If it's the home they're going to live in and it's their main home that they're living in, no one should pay stamp duty. If the government did that, it would unlock so much activity in the housing market, and it would be great for the economy. But the government have got their hands over their eyes and their ears, and they're just going la 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 la. We're following some weird agenda from somewhere else we don't understand. All right, guys. Do we have any last minute questions? Have I covered everything you wanted me to cover in this video? I'm just seeing if we've got any other questions anywhere. It's funny, we've got more viewers watching live on X than we have on YouTube, but all the comments come from YouTube. Why don't you guys watching on X make more comments or questions? If you're watching on X and you have a question, please pop it in, put it in there now. Actually, I do have a question here. It just hasn't come through in the live chat. Mike on X. Let me just. He's talking about the BestAgent data. And he says, this is Mike 47W. Read the median figures. Doesn't it mainly show that cheaper properties are selling at a faster rate than the more expensive ones? No, that's not what it's showing. This data doesn't tell us anything about which properties are selling or which ones are selling faster. The way the median is worked out is it's almost like they line up all the houses in a row, side by side, starting with the lowest price one on this end, the highest price one on that end, and they just pick the one that's right in the middle, and the price of that one is the median, the one that's exactly the halfway point. Okay. It doesn't matter how fast they're selling or not selling. I don't think that's what it's doing at all. Do we have any other questions on X? That's a good question. I don't think so. Do we have any other questions in the live chat? Lack of proper keyboard for typing on X, yes. Oh, Tom on YouTube says, leaseholder stuck in an unmortgageable or unsellable flat. Should I pay additional stamp duty for an extra property, or should there be an exemption? I think you're right. If your flat is unmortgageable and unsellable because of reasons outside your control, that would be a fair reason to say that you shouldn't have to pay stamp duty for an extra property. However, I'm not sure it works like that. So I don't think, Tom, that you're going to get away with that. Ask your conveyancer. Oh, Chris Lever says, just switch from YouTube to X to say hi. No questions at the moment. Okay, cool. Here, okay, Radcliffe on X says, do you think average house prices will shift much up or down this year? I am expecting them to shift down, but with wide variations based on region, based on entry level or top level of the market, and based on leasehold versus freehold. I think leasehold is going to have a shocking year as more and more and more landlords try to sell up. They're all too late, by the way. If you're a landlord and you want to sell and you haven't got your house already on the market, your flat already in the market, you're going to have a really tough time unless you've got an ideal first time buyer home in an area where first time buyers are queuing up to buy them, and there will be some of you like that. I would not want to be selling a leasehold flat in London right now. Nick Jones says, would you consider product testers for BestAgent from experienced property professionals as volunteers? Absolutely, I would. Absolutely. And we're just about to start gearing up. There's some exciting stuff happening with BestAgent. By the way, if you are a seller and you haven't yet found an agent, please check out BestAgent for finding an agent, right? And if you do use BestAgent and you fill up this, you have the option of recording a personal video message that the agents who we send your information to will be able to see privately. They can't share it, it's private, but that is massively helpful in the process of the matchmaking between sellers and agents. So if you are a seller and you use BestAgent to find an agent, please do. It's free to use. Please record when you get the option to do so. Record a video message, just a very short one, saying, "Hi, we're selling because this. We want to move there. We've lived here for 5 years. Looking forward to hearing from you." That's all it needs to be. Just really simple, basic things, so that the agents who are getting your lead from BestAgent, from us, just get that instant sort of human touch about, oh, okay, it's a family. Oh, okay, it's a landlord. Oh, okay, whatever it might be, right? Because all the other leads that agents get, whether they seller leads, whether they come from the other portals or anywhere else, they're just text. It's a name and an email and a phone number and nothing else. And there's no context. And that's why so many people are choosing the wrong agent for the wrong reasons. Nazgul99 says, are flats really that bad? I managed to accumulate a good amount of deposit, around 95,000, planning to buy a flat with 2 beds in Southampton. The mortgage will be cheap. What do you mean the mortgage will be cheap? Do you mean the payments are going to be affordable? Yeah. Well, listen, what you've got to do is, for each individual different flat you're looking at, you've got to be very, very, very clear about the service charges, the management company, the time left on the lease, what the actual leasehold terms are. And the question I would always ask of my conveyancer if I was considering buying a leasehold flat is, what is my worst case scenario if I were to buy this lease? What are my potential liabilities, potential risks? Please tell me what. Just, in other words, don't buy a leasehold flat hoping it's going to be okay. Buy a leasehold flat assuming the worst with service charges and everything else, and make your offer based on that. Sorry if you're selling a leasehold flat, it's not what you want to hear, I know, but this is the situation. By the way, for those of you, like, I feel your pain. Okay. Will B says, hey to Tom, the one with the unsellable flat. Yes, pay additional for a second home, rent out your unsellable flat. Be careful though, learn from the independent landlord. Yes, do learn from the independent landlord, because my God, I watched her video today about the renters' rights bill changes coming through. It's brutal for landlords. I mean, it's good because it's the thing that I thought when I watched it, I thought to myself, if you're a slum landlord and you see this coming on the track, you're getting out. You are getting out, or you're going to have to sort your shit out, severely sort your shit out. I like that about the Renters' Rights Bill. I like the fact that tenants, if you're a proper scum landlord and you are breaching certain regulations, your tenants might be able to get 2 years of rent repaid from the landlord. That, I like that, provided it isn't abusable, and provided it's only because the landlord's genuinely been scummy and slummy and bad. Yeah. I mean, I would, for those of you looking at buying flats, I honestly think it's safer to find a flat that you can rent because you won't have any maintenance costs, and then rent and save until you can afford a leasehold. There's something I'd be considering if I was worried about the risks of leasehold flats. Alexandra, hi there, says common holds are coming. Yes, they are, but well, they might be if Labour actually comes through and delivers on their promise, but it'll only be on new builds, right? It'll only be on new builds. That's all they've committed to doing. They said that they're going to ban the sale of new leasehold flats, and they'll have to be common hold. And they're saying that they're hoping to get that done by the end of this parliament. But a lot of commentators are saying it's more complicated than they think. Every government has been saying this since the 90s, that this is what they're going to do. None of them have achieved it. So if Labour can achieve that, at least new leases won't be allowed anymore, and they'll be common hold. And that would be a step in the right direction. But it's not going to help all the people who are currently trapped in leasehold flats. Richard Uniacki, hope I pronounced that right, says in Southwest England, I see 1 to 2 bed freeholds going for around £240,000. Add a bit more and get much more. Do you think they are overvalued and could become more affordable? I can't tell you whether I think they're overvalued or not without seeing them. I do know that the market in the southwest of England, especially at the higher detached level, is really, really bad. I know personally of people who've been trying to sell for over a year who completely ignored my advice and warning about what to do and the way to go. And I've had to drop their price something near in the ballpark of 15% and still aren't getting any viewings. And there's a lot of that. But what's happening with freehold flats, if that's where you want to live and there's good quality, and it's affordable. Liam says, can you use the money in your leaser on legal fees? I'm not. I'm a moving guy, not a money guy. My assumption would be no, but I don't know. You need to check with your mortgage broker. If you've got money left over from your leaser you don't want to use on the deposit, but I'm pretty sure that the leaser rules are you can only use it for buying the property. Yeah, Nick says, Charlie, I think it'd be helpful if you had a chart on your website to show the change over time of median house prices versus asking prices. In due course, we will be doing that, but not until we've really settled on an approach to managing the data and this huge 1.5 million properties that are just evolving every single day, and it's a lot of data to handle for compared to the other big companies, a much smaller company. But yeah, absolutely, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do in due course. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I am going to wrap it up now. Unless there are any last minute questions that come in, please check if you are trying to sell or trying to buy, go and watch my videos, right? If you're selling, choose your agent like your future depends on it, because it does. Do not overprice, and don't be afraid of waiting to see what offers you get. If you are and price lower than the market looks. If you're a buyer, don't overpay. And for both of you, buyers and sellers, get prepared. Be prepared in advance, right? And if you want to, any of you who've been following for a long time and you know what my plans are with BestAgent and the public house price index and everything else, that I do have some, for me anyway, significant news coming soon about BestAgent. And if you'd like to know about that and be the first to know about that, then join my newsletter, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. If you're a buyer or a seller, by the way, you can go and register on BestAgent anyway. Just register what you're looking for. Basically, it works by just going look at the properties you're interested in and then registering on one of those properties. If you're selling, please check out BestAgent, because that's where the better agents kind of rise to the top and respond, especially if you put a video message in. It's a bit like video dating. All right, guys. If you need my help, you can book a call with me, one-to-one video call. At where is it? Buymeacoffee.com. Just going to get there. I can't find it. On my website, mhwc.co.uk, are links to everything, and there's also my link tree as well. But you can book half an hour or 1 hour one-to-one with me, or you can join the private live Q&A Movers Club. I owe you guys a live one of those sessions soon, by the way. And I'll be back soon with more guests. Next video will be on Friday for 5 Fact Friday. Have a great one, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Cookie says, do you have any advice for sellers at 350,000? Zach Trudry asks straight away what I was going to ask, which is, how do you know that you're a seller at 350,000? Good question. Now, it depends also, Cookie, whereabouts in the country are you? Is that 350,000 in London, or is that 350,000 in Barnsley? Because those are very, very different things. In some parts of the country, 350,000 will just get you a small flat. In some parts of the country, it'll get you a detached house. So, but whatever you're selling, my advice is don't choose the wrong agent. Do not sign a long-term sole agency agreement. Choose your agent like your future depends on it, because it does. And basically, it's the pricing that's key, right? If you make your launch asking price look better value than comparable properties, that's where the buyers are going to come, and they'll compete with each other. Your asking price goes out the window, they're competing against each other, and that's how you get the best price. So that's my advice. I really am going to go now. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.